Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is Friday, August 18th, here in the great year of 2023. And this is a bonus episode of Material Issues, episode number 116. Welcome. I'm Mark Hershberger of Pop Detective Records. I'm over here on the East Coast, just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where it's 11 a.m. Eastern Standard. I had to call my co-host, get him out of bed. It's bright and early. 8 a.m. for Mr. David Bash, president of the International Pop Overthrow Festival, which is taking its show to San Diego this weekend. David, are you there? I think, he has had hard.
Oh, 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 yes, it's material issues time.
It's material issues time. Yeah, I remember I called you 20 minutes ago. You were in the shower. Then we had to erase all that footage. But how you doing, my friend? You got another weekend of IPO going on.
I'm not used to being up this early, but that's okay.
Worth it.
It'll be worth it for the guests that we have. But yes, this evening will be night number 1 of IPO San Diego at Black Cat Bar. It's only 2 nights, 12 bands. Very much looking forward to going back to Black Cat Bar for a second year. And yeah, we have to leave fairly earlier than we would want, because otherwise we're going to hit some massive traffic. San Diego is only 120 miles from here, so you would think it would take 2 hours. No. If you leave when there's traffic, it's going to be at least 4. Yeah. So you have to beat that by leaving before it and just kind of trying to avoid the different pockets of traffic. But and then the other thing we have to worry about is there is a possible hurricane that's going to hit the Southern California area on Sunday morning. Good morning,
Tim.
On Sunday morning, possibly even a little bit earlier than that. They've downgraded it to a tropical storm. It's forming around around Mexico. Baja California is where it's supposed to hit Sunday morning, and that's right below the border.
Right.
So pretty good chance we're going to actually leave San Diego right after the second show, which is not what we wanted to do. We wanted to get a nice nap. We paid for an extra 12 hours in a hotel. But,
you gotta stop going to those hotels that rent by the hour.
Oh, no, I'll never stop that. Well, with me, as long as they rent by the minute, I'm okay.
Yeah, you're more like, can I get it for 7 minutes?
Yeah, right.
Oh, that was a good one. Even bright and early on Material Issues, we can go down the wrong road.
Yeah, you've got me sussed here. So other than that, I guess we can dive right in.
I want to dive right in, because this is we had a wonderful show Wednesday night with Steve Broughton / Steve Lunt of City Boy.
He likes Lunt these days.
He does like Lunt. Steve Lunt of City Boy. What a great
real name! Yeah.
What a great interview it was. And Vice President of A&R at Jive and Atlantic, and it was a 2.5 hour long show. We just enjoyed it. And he wants to come back on and just shoot the shit, as they say, again. So we may see him down the road. But today is a bonus episode. I'm really excited about this band, as I know you are. So
yeah, I mean, it's not down the road today; it's middle of the road. And this is a band who was huge in the early 70s in various European countries, namely the UK, where they're from. They're from Scotland. But also in places like the Netherlands, Germany, Denmark. Inexplicably, it's early, not in the U.S. For whatever reason, they never charted in the U.S. with any of their top singles that had been top 10 in the U.K. I discovered them, of course, after the fact. In 1979, I was looking through record bins, and there was an album called Acceleration. Oops.
Yep.
Yeah, the one in the middle. I didn't know who they were, but 2 things struck me. One, the cover looked very pop. And the other, the fact that they had done Chirpy. Well, no, that's not even on that album. Okay, never mind. But I think I found that out later when I got my British chart book. But anyway, the album looked very pop, and so I had to take a chance on it. And I played it and I loved it, and then read more about the band, saw that their version of Chirpy Cheep was #1 for like 6 weeks in the UK. And I'd never heard it. The US version was by Mac and Katie Kassoon. That's the one that we heard in the fall of 1971 and was a hit here. And then, I subsequently found a few more of their albums on RCA Records. The 3 on, I'm getting a lot of glare here.
Yeah,
this is a reissue on 70s, a division of Cherry Red. Yes, you've got it too. 3 albums on 2 CDs. Their first 3 albums on RCA with a bunch of bonus tracks, including a couple of songs in Italian. And I thought this was it. I thought they didn't have any more music than this. But then I was in Copenhagen a few months ago to do IPO. I went to a store there, and I found this album on vinyl, Music. I said, whoa, Middle of the Road has another album. So, of course, I bought it. And then through you getting our esteemed guest today, you told me that Renaissance Records in the States has reissued a whole bunch of Middle of the Road albums. And I said, what are you talking about? And I went to their website, and it's really amazing. I had not known that any of these albums, except the first one I showed, existed. I'm a big 70s freak. So for me not to know about things like this, it's like insane that I didn't know. But of course, I immediately ordered them, and they through Amazon. They showed up a day later, and I've listened to a few of them so far, and it's great stuff. I mean, it's stuff you might not expect if you know Middle of the Road from their hit-making days in the UK. You might not expect that some of these albums are just really glammy.
Yeah,
and they totally rock.
Glam rock and roll. It's great. Yeah,
always with those great melodies. And with Sally Carr's amazing lead vocals, the likes of which you really haven't heard. She has a vibrato like nobody else.
Yeah.
And it's an honor for us to introduce 2 of the members of Middle of the Road. So without further ado, would you please give a huge Material Issues welcome to vocalist Sally Carr and drummer Ken Andrew.
And hello. There they are.
Hi there. Hiya.
And Ken,
quite interested there. You said you picked up Acceleration out of a bin.
Record bin, yes. not a trash bin. In the States, they actually call them record bins.
Yeah, they were sitting there shocked.
Trash albums in there, but not yours. Ken, by the way, I love your shirt. You're a man after my own heart, wearing kind of psychedelic shirts.
Well, it's sort of black and white, I'm afraid, but nevertheless,
it's blue and black.
So I'm colorblind.
She's correcting you already.
Always.
Well, the 2 of you look fantastic. Sally, I wanted to start off #1, and David and I both late 70s when we kind of went back and discovered Middle of the Road and all the music. But of course, early on in your career, they were kind of focusing on certain assets of you, and you're still a lovely woman today. You were a crush of mine in the late 70s, just by going back to those old albums. But I wanted to ask you first of all, how are you feeling? I know in 2012 you suffered a very tough brain hemorrhage, and you're bouncing back wonderfully. And how are you feeling these days?
Actually, I'm feeling not bad at all. It was a craniotomy I had. So my head's been opened up from side to side, and this mass was removed. But it turned out it was an accident of birth, which is a
Oh, wow.
strange one. Something went wrong when I was being delivered, and something was lying dormant in my brain. And I bashed my head running up the stairs at the back of my house. I tripped, I went into the iron railings, and that made this thing start to grow to such an extent where my brain was totally covered in blood. And if it wasn't for the fact I had my GP lived 2 doors down from me,
Nice.
and I called them. But he said I didn't say anything to me. I was in trouble. They had keys to my house, and they got me rushed to the hospital, where they didn't even give any hope for me to live.
Wow.
The surgeon said, if I don't operate, she dies. If I do operate, she can still die. All I want is permission to operate. I was told this later. I know nothing about it. I was in another world, another planet. But hey, I'm here and I'm breathing.
Yes, indeed. And
You're doing great.
you had to work.
Thank
You had to
God.
work back through even speaking and learning speech again.
Yeah, I struggled with speaking. I struggled with walking. I struggled. I still have a problem with word processing, which I work hard on. But it's a big disability, to be truthful, because trying to read things, and sometimes I feel so stupid. But I keep going. I practice every day my brain training, and I run up and down stairs, well, as best I can.
Stay away from the first set of stairs that you talked about. Just stay away from those.
Those ones, yeah, I'm very wary of those ones now. And I do yoga. I've been doing yoga since I was 15, from a book when I was 15, because I'm from a chronic arthritic family who've all died young. And I just keep myself as fit as possible.
Well, you look wonderful. You
Absolutely.
look fantastic. I'm so grateful you're still here. I'm sure your partner in crime right next to you feels the exact same way. Do the two of you live close enough together that you can pop around easy, or is it a longer trip?
No, we stay as far away from one another. She's on the west coast of Scotland.
He's in the east.
Sort of east, but it's 70 miles away or something, which isn't much in US terms, but in Scotland, that's half the width of the country, so it's quite a distance. But we keep in touch. We will.
We do.
Yeah.
We definitely.
So you're together just for this. That's wonderful.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're honored, really.
Yeah, we greatly appreciate you being here. This is a big thrill for us. But let's rewind. Let's take it all the way back to the beginning. Your musical influences, like, did you come from a musical household? What got you into music? What kind of sparked your interest early on, band wise, music wise? What were you listening to? And we'll start with the lady if we could first, Sally.
Early on, I loved Dusty Springfield, Brenda Lee. I love Brenda Lee. Who was it did Stupid Cupid again?
Wasn't it Brenda Lee?
Stupid Cupid.
That was Brenda Lee.
Brenda Lee, yeah.
No, it wasn't Brenda Lee. Did Stupid
Connie
Cupid.
Francis.
Connie Francis.
Connie Francis, Brenda Lee, and Dusty Springfield. I loved all of them. But I love classical music as well.
Nothing wrong with that. Did you grow up in a musical household? Were your parents musical?
Not a musical household. My father was a miner. He was down the pit. And there was 5 of us, 5 children. And the 7 of us lived in a small room and kitchen. That's where I lived for outside wash house, outside toilet till I was 5.
Wow.
But we were the happiest crowd in the world. We all sang. As the boys got older, they all took up musical instruments. One played drums, one the saxophone. One of my brothers, the only brother I've got left, he's got the most amazing voice. He puts Pavarotti to shame, to be truthful.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, he did have it. I haven't heard him sing in a long time because he's a chronic arthritic as well. But we were happy. Let's put it that way. We had nothing. We were very poor, but we were happy.
Well, a lot of music and a lot of good things come out of just being happy. And
yeah, exactly. I agree with it. And money can't buy you that.
no, not at all. Not at all.
You
Did you
can't.
sing it? Did you sing in school? Were you part of choirs? Yeah.
I did sing in school, but when I started to sing, people used to tell me to shut up. I just
money can't buy you love either. Were you a big fan of the Beatles?
No, money can't buy love. Money buys material things, and I'm not materialistic. I never have been.
The question was, are you a fan of the Beatles?
Where did that? I didn't hear that. Sorry,
I use money can't buy you love as a lead-in because of the Beatles song.
No, I was a Mick Jagger fan. Sorry.
Okay, this is the 116th episode. I think that's the first person when we said, "Were you a Beatles fan?" where they said, "No, I was a Mick Jagger fan." You're the first one that went the Mick Jagger route.
No, I was a big Mick Jagger fan. I thought he was the most amazing performer, and
wow.
We went together to a Rolling Stones concert in Edinburgh, and I have never been so embarrassed in all my life. She was up for this. Very embarrassing, but they were good.
Oh, they were excellent. They were excellent. Yeah, no, I went to another concert they did in a theatre in Glasgow, and as soon as they come on the stage, I was right down to the front, to the balcony, and the steward came up and grabbed me and he said, "Up to your seat, girl, put me back." And as soon as he disappeared, I was right back down again. So he took me and he threw me out. And I was in a complimentary ticket. They gave me, it was a ticket I'd gotten free. And I said, "I've got a ticket to come in here." He says, "You don't behave like..." Oh, so that was it. I did get back in as long as I behaved myself and sat still. What can I say?
Well, how about you, Ken? What's your early beginnings?
Well, I started playing the drums in a pipe band at school, and I enjoyed it, but it wasn't quite what I was looking for. And when I went to university, I joined a small group, and I borrowed drums from my cousin who had a big bass drum. This was the days of jazz. He had a big bass drum and a snare drum, and I just got to working with that for a while. And we had a little group in the university which played on Saturday nights and at the intervals, because in those days, jazz was the thing. And I have to say that I really like jazz. And like Sally, I like orchestral music. I like classical music too.
Definitely.
So when one thinks about the sort of material that we ultimately were playing, it was due to the 60s music, which was absolutely unique. It was new, it was fresh. We loved the harmonies, and that got me into that. And Ian and Eric were playing in a rock band somewhere, and they got in touch with me and said, "Look, why don't we form a little trio or something like that?" And I thought, well, no, I don't want to do that. But we ended up getting a contract to play with another girl singer, nothing to do with Sally at all.
Right.
In what was it?
La Ronde.
No. This was in the days of the Pallies.
The days of
dancing. So we did a lot of quick steps and all that sort of thing. We then moved from that into sort of nightclub type places and supper dances. And we joined with another guy. This is the guy you were thinking of, who was a guitarist, and he had his girlfriend was the singer. And there was the two of them and the three of us, Ian, Eric, and myself. And we formed this little group, and it was called Karen and the Sophisticats.
Right.
Now, Karen took ill, and she had to go into hospital and leave the group for about 3 months. So this left us with an opportunity. We needed another girl singer. And we actually saw Sally singing with her band in, was it Coatbridge? somewhere on the east side of Glasgow.
No, I think I was singing on Moan at the time.
All right, yes.
I was on
You
Moan.
may well
I didn't
be.
have a band.
We listened to him and thought, oh, she sounds quite good. So we had to get clearance from the other guitarist, and he and I auditioned Sally in his flat. And we thought, yeah, she'll be fine. Okay. So she joined us as Karen and the Sophisticats. But during the course of this time, part 3 was Ian, Eric, and myself doing some singing and performing in pubs. And I was learning to play the drums and harmonise with the guys. Ian and Eric were the main singers. They were really very good. And Sally heard about this and was a little bit upset that she was only in Karen and the Sophisticats, and she wanted, what's this other band? And we said, well, we're just getting some extra money and doing some different things. So she said, I want to do that. So
yeah, because I actually wanted to go and visit friends in America.
Yes.
So I needed extra money.
Extra money.
Wow. Okay.
But she never got the chance, because things worked out so well. We became part 4, and we were doing a lot more supper dances than Karen and the Sophisticats were doing. So that's how part 4 evolved. And to cut a long story short, Los Caracas was the next band that we were, just the same 4 people. But there was an agent in Glasgow who was running, he had 2 different bands, the Hawaiian band and a steel band. And they were special bands, and they played all types of music, but they one had steel drums and the other one had all sorts of other things going on. And they wanted to make us a speciality band. Now, we did a few Latin American songs, maybe half a dozen, and they were very popular. So they said, why don't you just dress up Los Caracas? Now, there's the thing. I don't know who said Los Caracas, but that was the name that was given to us. And we thought, okay, so we put on Mexican hats, ponchos, and all sorts of things. And then we got onto Opportunity Knocks.
Yeah, the television show Opportunity Knocks. Yeah.
And it took off, and it meant that we were not only working in Scotland and in Glasgow, we ended up working in the north of England working men's clubs, which were, very interesting to play to. But there was beer all the time and all sorts of noises. But it gave us an opportunity to develop.
It did.
And we developed our style. Yeah. But
around what years are these? What year is this, Ken?
68. 1968 was when we did Opportunity Knocks.
Okay.
And we were on the show 3 times, and then we were on the 4th time as the All Winners program. And that really, it did us some good, mainly from the point of view of experience, because it was all live. And there was even a situation where first time we went down into the studio, I had my drum kit there, and we were waiting at the side to go onto the set. And they said, right, okay, Los Caracas. So I'm busy, picked up my drums to go over to put them on the set. Put them down. Don't you touch those drums. There are people here who have to do that.
That's right.
It's
crazy.
Okay. So they put the drum kit, and it was all over the place. I said, can I touch it now to set it up? And they said, yes, that's fine. So we did. It was a fascinating experience for us, and something that we learned never again to try and move our instruments around without them. Especially not.
So you made it on Opportunity Knocks as Los Caracas doing South American or Spanish or flavored pop music. And at some point, you just kind of fizzle out in the UK and decide you have to leave?
That was when we got that manager.
What was that? Say that again. What was that?
We decided.
I said, well, at what point did you like decide that you weren't doing anything of significance in the UK, and you just got to bolt the country and move?
We went with the success in the north of England. We went down to London to do an audition to get an international contract of some sort to go and work abroad, and they offered us such poor money. We were making much more in Scotland that we just said, nah, get it. So we went back home again, and playing in supper dances
in the
casinos.
Chevalier Casino.
Yeah, in the casinos. There were two guys there, two croupiers, who wanted to manage us. And he said they could get investment for new equipment, new clothes.
That's right.
And things that we could then expand into overseas, because they came from Argentina. Now,
only in the 60s could that happen. Croupiers at a casino says we can manage.
The last year of the 60s.
It's true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
And would you trust going abroad with two croupiers from Argentina who worked in a casino? It was madness, utter madness. They were going to take us to Argentina to be world famous. Now, I don't know why we decided that was the right thing to do, but it was.
There was only one took it. Oscar Sabino Arce.
Was that his name?
Right. Yes, that was his name.
Well,
can I say a sweary word? He was an arse.
Yes, you can say whatever you like. He was an ass.
He was well named. His name was ARCE, so
that was.
He was an arse.
Made easy, yes.
His sticky fingers. He stole our money.
He was still gambling, but he was gambling using our money.
That's right.
We went to Italy.
Wow.
We went to Italy to get a ship to go to Argentina. I mean, this story is crazy. Absolutely that. Why did we go to Italy to go to Argentina? But fortunately, with all this going on,
because we were going to do some gigs there to get some more money to finish the trip.
So Argentina was going to be the place where we were going to make a huge impact on the world.
Supposed to be, yeah. But then we were stupid at the time. We weren't thinking straight, let's put it that way. Gullible. We were very gullible.
But the thing is, we enjoyed doing what we were doing. And frankly, the important thing we wanted to do was to expand what we were to something outside of Scotland and the UK.
That's right.
And this was an opportunity. And there was money behind it. I mean, we were given clothes, equipment, all the rest of it, beautiful van, a new car. And then we just took off to go through Europe. Now, Europe at that time was not the way it was before Britain left it recently. It was all individual countries. You had to have a carnet to get from one to the other. And it was an absolute nightmare. And we didn't know anything about that. But our Argentinian manager could speak multiple languages and managed to convince the French customs to let us through France to get to Italy. And we had 24 hours or 12 hours to do it. And so we checked in at, was it Calais? I think it was Calais.
Okay.
We went via Paris and then on through the Alps to get to Italy. And when we got to the other French customs, there was nobody there, and we were supposed to get checked out because they'd sealed the van and all sorts of things. But there was no one there, so we just drove through. And at the end of the day, they were looking for us in Italy about 6 months later to try and find us. I'm not. Did we still have our equipment? Yes, we still had it. We're working with the things. So
I remember that, about the equipment. Yeah, I remember that.
I mean, naivety wasn't the word. Stupidity was probably, but
it had to be the whole thing had to be very exciting to people who were like in their, I assume you were in your late teens, early 20s. I mean, the prospect of going to Argentina must have been very exciting.
Do you know, my daddy, before we left, at the end of the day, I didn't want to go. I said, I'm not going, I'm not leaving my mum, because my mum was bedridden. She was a cripple. And he said, he says, your mum's fine. But he told us all, he says, you're doing this, each of you put together a box of tinned foods. You never know what can happen when you're on the road. And he gave us a little Primus gas camping stove with 2 burners and a big plastic tank that took 5 gallons of water. And he said, that's your emergency. And by God, we needed those emergency supplies, believe me. I took more meals at the side of a road in Rome, but down the Tiburtina, was it?
Yeah, it was that one, I think.
Down the Tiburtina and outside of Rome, cooking meals at the side of the road. Just
I wish you would. I wish you would have had a camera along. We'd love to see all these
I know.
photographs.
I wish we had.
Well, we did, but unfortunately, I couldn't afford the film. But the thing is, we were nearly thrown out of a hotel because she was busy cooking on the balcony of one of the hotels,
right.
and the food smell was going down. And somebody came up from the reception and said, "Is there somebody cooking something up here?" And we went, "What? No." And went away, and I said, "Just get that off. We can't do it," because they didn't want us to be cooking on their balcony, of course.
Yeah, burning the hotel down.
The stove. I used to lock it up in my wardrobe in my bedroom.
Well, I mean, Italy became the place for you then. This is where it all happened.
Yeah.
Correct.
We were given some good. Sorry if I'm interrupting you. Just shout me down.
No, go. You're good.
No, not at all.
Well, we're good.
We were playing in a place called La Capanina di Franceschi in Forte de Marmi, which was quite a high quality nightclub. Frank Sinatra had sung there and all sorts of people like that, but we were just the band for the dance band. And there was a guy from RCA came down and said, would you like to come to Rome and do a test? And we went, yeah, heard this before somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But
typical, yeah. Sure, send him.
So we did. We took it again. We just took his word for it. Went to Rome.
No, not the first time. The first time didn't come to fruition.
Did it not?
No, it was the next time they were down. There was someone else from RCA in Rome was on holiday, and they come up and said the same thing. We were saying, yeah. Okay. But this time it did come.
That's true.
It was the second time.
The second time. I can't remember the first time, but the second time it must have been.
See, what he forgets, I remember. What I forget, he remembers.
That's why it's great to have you both. Yeah.
This is why I have a quick question. You two have never been married to each other, have you? Because you act like a married couple.
No, definitely not.
You just have such a great close rapport where you can tell you're very close.
Hold on. 60 is quite a long time. We make it about 50, and that means we're slightly younger than we are at the moment.
We've known each other a long time.
It's wonderful.
Best of friends.
That's why we're 70 miles apart.
Yeah. That's why you're still best of friends. Yeah.
Maybe.
That can work for some marriages also.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
That worked for some.
That can work for some marriages also, being 70 miles apart.
That's true. No, we're great pals, and we know each other inside out. We really do. All these years working together, on the road together, we're just the best of pals.
And, well, it's refreshing to see too, because we've interviewed a lot of people on this show, and so many of the bands that we've talked to from the 60s, they're kind of estranged. They don't talk to each other. They're not that close. It all kind of just went south, and they're like, I'm not really sure what he's doing or she's doing or whatever. But it's just very refreshing to see the two of you as close as you are, because you've had such a great history together, making a lot of music together, and you can still be like brother and sister, and all these years later, it's just wonderful.
Relationship we've got. I don't think we've ever really we disagree.
Sharp.
I don't think we've ever had any real fights or anything.
No. I mean the band, middle of the road, when we were going through all the tests at RCA and then the recordings thereafter. We were very much a family. I mean, we had our little differences, of course. Everybody does. But it was one of the nicest groups that I've been in.
Yeah.
And it's probably the only one when I think about it. But we felt like a family because we faced up to all these things together.
That's true.
And although there was one point when we very nearly split because Ian and Eric wanted to go home. Sally was wanting to go home. I was the only one that really didn't want to go home. I don't know why, I can't remember that. But anyway, that we managed to convince ourselves that we should stay there and we'd recorded Chirpy, Cheep, but it hadn't, it was on the radio once or twice and that was it. But then I said, give it a bit of time, because you never know, things might just develop. And in fact, within a month, Belgium was the first place where we had a number one hit with Chirpy, Cheep, Cheep. And I have to say, when we were asked to record Chirpy, Cheep, Cheep, I was totally embarrassed by the thought of singing it, to be perfectly honest.
You know something? We sat in this big room, and the three of them said, there's no way we're singing that. The only way we'll sing that is if we're drunk. So the producer said, right, we'll get you drunk.
And they did.
But that's not the word he used. It was another word he used, but I won't say it because...
Was it Italian?
What is a two-syllable word that starts with S?
And they said, right, we'll get you drunk. And I said, but I'll record it then. I said, because I love it. And I did love it. And so
let me get this straight then. So the version we hear, Chirpy, Chirpy, Cheep, Cheep, is actually the four of you guys drunk.
Yes, no,
Is that what you're saying?
Three drunk.
The three guys were drunk.
Okay, not Sally.
Well, what is it? I don't know if they're almost sober, but that's not the point.
That's funny.
No, and that was it. They said we didn't have to be,
but in fairness,
inebriated.
That's the one.
But now, what version of the song did you hear to find out that you didn't want to record it? Or was it Lally Scott?
Lally's, yeah.
Lally was there. Okay. Lally was in Rome, and he was friendly with the producer Giacomo Tosti, and they got together, I think, with people in RCA, obviously, to suggest that maybe we could record the song and release it internationally, because RCA Italiana was looking for an international hit of some sort. They were very big in Italy, but they wanted an international hit. And Lally Stott couldn't get his record company to release his version widely at that time. They did it ultimately because once we got the recording released, it started to take off in Europe. And we actually, when you were talking about Mac and Katie Kassoon there, they recorded it, I think, after they heard it, or after the management heard us doing it for the first time in Germany on a TV show where we were on together. This is my view of it, I think. But as soon as they heard it, I think they went away and recorded it in a serious manner. I mean, their version was very good. I can't deny it. It was a hit in the US, but ours was just a bit of fun.
Of course it was.
And that's what we wanted to express. And that's, to be fair, Giacomo Tosti, I was speaking to him recently, and I asked him, what did you want Middle of the Road to do? And he said, be happy. Just sing happy songs.
But we were happy. We were very happy.
But on the other side of that coin, if you really look at that song, Chirpy, Chirpy, Cheep, Cheep, and there's been things written where you've said you were not you, Ken. I'm talking a fan of the song and whatnot. But as you said, you're a very happy band. But that song is about isn't it about like a mom that abandons her son?
No, but there has been so many versions of what that song is about. People have asked me about it as well. Is it about a little bird that lost its little baby bird? All sorts of things.
But
and
there is a story on Facebook, which it's not on Facebook, but I was contacted by a guy who said he knew who the song was about, and it was about a friend of Lally Stott's child, and the mother left the baby with the father, and that's what that was about. Because he also turned around quite recently there was a message to say that actually the baby lived quite long but died recently. So it is a sad song, but it wasn't explained to us at the time. No. We just thought it was a silly song in some respects.
That's true.
And so we sang it with just a bit of that. And I think that the truth probably is that he wrote it actually about a baby who was left by its mother.
Now that's brought another story back to me. I remember a friend of mine phoning me up and saying this work colleague, she'd had a baby way back then, that same time, out of marriage. She wasn't married. So the baby had to be put up for adoption. And she was on her way to sign the final papers to give the baby up for adoption when Chirpy came on the radio, and she said to herself, when my child grows up, what's he going to start? What's that baby going to, I think it was a son. What's he going to think? Where is my mum? And she says, I turned round and she came back and she said to my friend, it's a neighbour of mine who lives in the next village. She said to John, I came back and 32 years later, I've got the most handsome, strong son that I'm so delighted that I've kept and didn't give up for adoption.
Oh,
that's a nice story. Yeah.
I thought that was a lovely story.
I'm adopted. And look at me. I'm sitting here today with David Bash and you guys doing a material issues show. So, I'm just saying.
So what about a song like Tweedledee Tweedledum? That also seems kind of silly. Were you against that one too, Ken?
No. That's a Scottish reference in that song. Of course, it's about two clans, and the Tweedledee Tweedledum has nothing to do with the Tweedledee Tweedledum of Alice in Wonderland. It is actually the sound of the bagpipes, and the song had something which we quite liked, but to be honest, we didn't have a lot of choice. We were told what to sing and what we were given songs. And having got over Chirpy, I mean, I actually liked it ultimately because it did so well. But Tweedledee Tweedledum was an interesting song to do, and it was Scottish, so fine, why not do it?
Mm-hmm. It's one I didn't like very much.
No. She was drunk when we were free.
It's definitely one I wasn't all that keen on. To sing it, I found it too many twists.
Right.
And it was just too all over the place.
It was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
Sally, I have to ask you, was that vibrato in your voice natural, or did you work on that?
It's natural.
That's my voice.
Yeah.
It's very distinctive, and
it really is.
So the question is, were you very cognizant about my vibrato? So I'm working on it, or was it just a natural vibrato? Which
it's just the voice I've got, and
you were blessed with, yeah.
It has been downed by many people. It's been put down so much, it's unbelievable, which gave me a complex about my voice. I'm embarrassed.
I don't know why anyone would put it down. But
wow.
It's been put down so many times by other artists, other female artists.
Well, that's because they didn't sell 10 million physical 45s.
Right, they were just jealous.
Cheap, Yeah.
That happens a lot. People will put people down because they're jealous of their success.
And that's something I did read, just going back to Chirpy real quick, that there's only been about 50 or 60 tracks in the history of music that have actually sold over 10 million physical 45 copies, and Chirpy Cheep is one of them that has sold over 10 million physical 45s, which is pretty impressive. And of course,
maybe all the people who bought it were drunk.
What?
Maybe all the people who bought the single were drunk.
A lot of drunk people.
Yeah.
Right. So the first hit Ken didn't like. The next one you didn't like. Hopefully you both liked Soley, because that's my favorite song of yours.
And I'll tell you another wee story about Soley. I lived in Madrid, and Fernando Arbex, who wrote Soley, he had an apartment above me, and he had a big house in the country, but he had an apartment above me, and he came downstairs one day and said to me, Sally, I wrote this new song. What do you think? And I said, Fernando, the lyrics are they're not English. They're not English lyrics. They don't fit. So I transposed all the lyrics, but never put my name to the credits.
Oh,
I just transposed it, and I love Soley. I just absolutely love Soley. It's a song I used to absolutely adore singing, and believe it or not, my son, it was his favourite song as well. It was his very own favourite too. I just loved it.
It's beautiful though. The extended note that you sing before Soley, it brings chills to me. And I also love the marimba in there. It's a very nice compliment.
The build up to the note where where it says until you came back, until you came back, until you came, and then there's a timing pause there, and it's not exactly in the time. It's hit at a certain moment, which is wonderful. That's the hook right there. That's the hook of the song, and it just kills. It just kills. Yeah. And of course the voice is beautiful. It's beautiful. Great song.
Thank you. Well, love it or hate it, I can't do anything about it. I'm stuck with it.
No. You're right.
Now, of course, you also had a hit with Sacramento. What is that again?
I call Sacramento. Sacramento sacked the drummer.
Oh, really? Was that another song with a label?
Yeah, I'm sorry. that joke has worn very thin with me. I may say that I'm strong enough to say I'm not going.
Yeah, well, when we talked earlier without Sally, Ken, you said you were the band leader and Sally is your singer. So
no, I didn't.
I'm just trying to cause trouble.
No, somebody said to me I was the band leader, but I never was. The thing about
he was the band leader. Believe you me, he was the strongest person in the band.
Yeah.
Honestly, he was, and he did keep us together through thick and thin. He did.
Aww.
Believe me.
No, I was just trying to stir things up between the two of you right there.
know you were.
There was no truth to it whatsoever.
Now, forgive this question, but I have to ask it. Why do you think Middle of the Road didn't have success in the U.S.? You had it everywhere else, but
there's a straight answer to that. RCA didn't promote us at all in America.
That's what I thought.
And to be honest with you, it took we were hits in Germany, all the European countries long before even the UK took it,
and even in the Far East, etc. as well.
I mean, we had a real difficulty, I think, with I don't know. RCA Italiana was based in Italy, and I really honestly think that the music industry in the UK in particular didn't like the idea of things coming in from outside. I mean, we were offered all sorts of silly things in the UK, but with very little money and very little help. Italy did something which I think was quite remarkable, even though we weren't in the United States. They got us practically everywhere, including into the UK. But the UK was very slow. They had to promote it quite a lot on breakfast shows on the radio.
It was almost as if they weren't interested.
Yeah. But the United States was a place we wanted to go. And whenever we signed a contract with RCA, we thought, oh, great, we'll get into America. But no, I think we had a small hit in Wisconsin.
When we had two hits, I've got the chart in my house, the two charts in my house. I can't remember the two places.
Oh, I want to know.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna have to find out so we have a stump the bash.
I don't know, but yeah, it's really weird, and I think we were very much a Europop sound at that time, and I think that they may have not. I think that the market didn't quite like it at that time. I don't know. I really honestly don't know.
There's no way that those songs could not have been hits in the States had they been promoted correctly.
The only thing I can think of, David, and just as I think about it here, is that they were all, it was almost like a glam pop light kind of sound. They were almost a little too early for what did hit in the States in, say, 73, 74, as far as that kind of stomping glam sound. They were doing it first already, and it just didn't translate to the US at that time.
A song that you guys could have done, which is interesting because Soley is two of the same word. The Swede had a hit with Funny Funny, which sounds very much like a middle of the road song. And that didn't do anything in the States either. So Mark may be onto something, but you would think they would have RCA would have tried to promote you, especially having released Acceleration. But yeah, that's the way it is with labels, unfortunately.
I think it's probably down to just that one person's individual taste who was in charge of doing the promotions. And I don't fancy that. Bin.
Right.
And it ended up in the bin. See,
that's where you got it.
That's where, and it's been there ever since. And David found it.
I did troll garbage bins and found some good records there.
So you guys were really keen on getting to the U.S., playing in the U.S., being, but you've never played in the U.S.
No, never.
No.
We had the same problem, I think, with management, and I don't want to criticize too much our management, but they were at fault.
Of course they were.
We were treated as a singles recording band. We were not treated really as a group, like the Sweet, as you say. We had hit singles, and that was it. Albums didn't matter too much at all. But at the end of the day, all they wanted to do was really take the money off what was already successful, and that was it. There was no development plan with the band at all. And that's why I was so keen that these 6 albums that you've got there, or 7 albums, could be released, because that was what Middle of the Road wanted to do. Music was a definite trend from the Europop. We kept the Europop because Fernando Arbex wrote many of the songs on that album and produced, and we went through that, and then we dropped Fernando and started to do our own thing. And the next one, which was He Pays Your Money, was a bit of a downer as an album, because we were sick and tired of not getting to do what we wanted to do, and these songs they're quite serious. Things like Gone's the Time. Now, Gone's the Time is so relevant today because it's all about our problem with the global warming, etc. Right. And Ian wrote that song, and he was quite right. It was a good song, but it's a downer. It's a song which is a bit down.
It's a song I love to sing. I must admit, I really love singing it. I felt every single word I sang in that song. I remember that so much.
Well, the thing is that it gave you the chance to sing using your voice with other than just Europop type stuff.
That's right.
And she has a very flexible voice. I mean, Sally can sing anything, absolutely anything.
Maybe not now.
I'll bet you're getting there, though. I'll bet you're getting there.
Never say never.
Yeah.
But when I listen to these albums, I get the feeling that what you really wanted to be was a rock band, because the guitars are much louder on those albums than they ever were on the RCA stuff.
Yes.
Well,
a song like Bad Girl. Yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
No, go ahead. I was just saying. I said a song like Bad Girl. That just comes out and rocks. Yeah.
Yes.
I need to get that song. I need to get that song and a few others onto some of the glam groups. They may not be aware, because they looked at Middle of the Road as a pop group. They may not be aware of what happened afterwards. So I bet I could really surprise some of those people.
We used to do in Rome, we used to do soundtracks for movies. And then we would go and watch the film and hear ourselves. And some of the films that we did the soundtracks for were amazing. That's where we first met Sophia Loren.
Oh,
when we did.
Yeah, you did a soundtrack of one of her films, and you met Sophia Loren. I read that somewhere. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it was called Anyone. And she asked if I could do the lead vocal and she could follow it. But she has got a nice voice. And I think for a while they kept my voice on it. For a while.
I think just for well, I'm not sure about.
I don't know about the record, but because I remember the guy who wrote the song, he said, I'll sing it. And she says, no, thank you. And that was it. She can sing it.
But you see, actually, that's another issue there. Sorry if I'm changing things about a bit here.
No, it's okay.
We were used as a vocal group. They didn't necessarily need us to play any instruments at all.
That's true.
And in Italy, Rome was the sort of centre of the Italian film market. And RCA studios there were huge. I mean, they did up a lot of the soundtracks for the spaghetti westerns, etc. And in fact, I only learned recently that we were actually connected through our manager in Italy. We got a new manager in Italy to Ennio Morricone and one or two other people who set themselves up as, writers in Rome. And I didn't know that at the time. We were quite ignorant of who was looking after us at all. But they all seemed to want us to do choral backings in their soundtracks.
That's right.
And we were doing all sorts of work like that, which of course was quite good for RCA because all we got paid for was just the time we were there. We didn't get any royalties or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But we were a vocal group, and that was the thing that we were anyway. I mean, even when we were in Scotland as Los Caracas, we didn't have any other instrumentation. We had guitar, bass, and drums, and voices. And we used the voices rather like instruments a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And this comes up quite clearly, I think, in some of these albums you've got, particularly Dice, Postcard on Dice. You can hear the way we're using our voices, that we were quite used to not singing with any instrumentation, which changed after that. We then introduced orchestra.
And our voices did blend.
Yes.
Oh yeah, beautiful. Yeah, beautiful blend of voices.
Very well together.
How did you get the deal with Areola?
I have absolutely no idea. That was the management side did that, and we were so busy touring, and this was one of our problems, that we were touring all over the place, doing Chirpy, Cheep, etc. And we just left them to get on with it. And then we heard, we've got this contract, blah, blah, blah. And they paid a lot of money, which was very nice. But what was happening at that time when we got the Areola contract, RCA still had one or two singles up their sleeves. And RCA, being the massive organization they were, promoted those right up to the hilt. Areola had absolutely very little chance of getting anything, apart from maybe local. We got hits in Germany, Belgium to some extent, but it was mainly Germany for Areola because they were a German record company. And they did not have the clout that RCA had.
No.
So we were caught. We were caught with success with one thing, that we had to leave because RCA didn't want to renew the contract.
We just worked like Trojans.
Yeah.
We were in different countries every day.
Wow.
But I'm not knocking Areola, don't get me wrong. They did the best that they could, but it wasn't good enough, in the same way that our music, which was developing at that time, wasn't quite good enough to match up to the successes of Chirpy, Cheep. So it's
I don't think you should. I mean, from my perspective, don't use the word good enough. Maybe it wasn't commercial as much, but I think these albums are brilliant. I really do. And they feel more like albums than the RCA albums do.
Yes, the RCA albums were collections of hits.
Yeah.
That's what they were. And that's all they really wanted. I mean, but one has got to recognize, I suppose, that music is very commercial. It's money. It's generating money. And particularly in the 60s and early 70s, the record companies were raking it in. And they were all very keen just to get that money going.
Exactly.
And they weren't really that interested in developing the band. Now, that's fine, because the record company is there to sell records. We should have had a management that said, right, we know how to develop, like you develop, we will do this and make sure that your career goes on. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. Nice though our management was, and we liked the guys, they really didn't have it in them to be able to develop what was in their the palm of their hands. And that's what disappoints me. I mean, I'm not being a bit serious at the moment. Sorry about that.
No, but it's
But
true.
the thing is that was true about Middle of the Road. We were left. And even people in the UK don't know anything about these albums. They will now. But one guy said, why does Sally Carr just sing Chirpy, Cheep, Cheep? She's got a great voice, and I'm sure she could sing all sorts of other types of songs. And these albums are an example of that. She sings a massive range of songs. And to be honest with you, one of my favorite ones is Don't Leave Me Now.
Yes.
I'm in tears at the end of it, as she was.
I was actually sitting on the floor in a dark recording studio. And when I think about it now, God, I'm getting pins and needles just thinking about it. And I just felt so alone and so unloved. And so it was terrible, the feelings I had. And I know somebody said to me, someone said to stop the recording. And the producer, it was Fernando, wasn't it?
I don't remember that.
Fernando, someone was trying to stop in the middle because I was getting upset singing.
Oh,
Said, no,
yeah,
keep it going.
yeah.
No, don't stop.
That's right.
Keep going. And
her voice breaks on the last part of
it did.
Don't Leave Me Now. And it gets me every time. I go, that is so touching. It really is.
Wow.
And
Okay.
at the same time, she can do those massive, that was rock and roll songs, which allowed her all sorts of opportunity. The end of Gone's the Time, she just goes into all sorts of things. And it really demonstrated how good her voice was. I'm a fan.
Oh, thank you.
No, I'm a fan because she's.
Well, we all are. Yes. Yeah.
What's it?
Well, you were so when you're riding the wave of Chirpy and Tweedledee and Soley, Sacramento, Samson, Delilah. You had all these hits in Europe. You said you were playing live a lot. Were you playing pubs, clubs, smaller things? Did you open up for certain acts, or were you always kind of headlining?
We were headlining a lot of the time, and some of our problem was that sometimes the production of our hit, even apart from Chirpy Cheep Cheep, the production of our hit records had more instrumentation than we could ever have on stage.
Right.
And so we had to try and make it sound as though it was on the record, and that was a real difficult job because if there was any instrumentation, which was strings or anything like that, we couldn't do it because again, nobody saw the opportunity to develop the band on stage live as a group. Fine on records, but not live. And we struggled. I have to say to you, we did struggle as a live band because we couldn't quite match up to what the records were. And
in many ways, I think that would be difficult to try to match the records. But on the other side of the coin, with as good as your vocal harmonies were, you really could have just had an acoustic guitar and sang that stuff and still pulled it off, and had the whole crowd singing with you, and which I'm sure you probably had that a lot anyway with because a lot of the songs are very anthemic. They're very crowd,
they're easily sing-alongable.
Yeah, easily sing-alongable.
That's true.
Track, but
there was one occasion when we were booked in an open air festival in Germany, and it was full of people smoking, drinking, all the rest of it, and all the bands that were on there were heavy rock bands.
I remember.
And then we came on, and they said, "Middle of the Road," and she started. I have never seen so many Coke bottles and cans being thrown
on the stage.
Oh my God!
So we sent Sally off, and Eric and
do you know what I did? I went and picked up the money. I picked up the fee and said, "Hey guys, let's go. I've got the cash."
Good idea. Yeah.
Exactly.
It was totally. We shouldn't have been booked into that.
No,
they were wrong. But
having said that, they enjoyed the rock and roll stuff. We still were able to do something. But as soon as Sally came back on again,
that was it. They started throwing things at me again.
Well, also
singer.
In a number of the early videos for those hits as well, it's quite obvious to a viewer, and it's of the time that, as I showed you earlier, the cover for the Best of Middle of the Road, there are certain assets that they're focusing on. Sally, were you aware early on of like your sexiness, the fact that even the camera angles on some of those early videos are catching you from behind, even when the chorus of the song is going on, and then they,
not aware of anything like that. I was raised with 4 brothers, and I had to fight for survival with 4 brothers, become as strong as them, be able to build things, mix cement, all that sort of stuff, build long, so that's the type of life I led.
She went on a bricklaying course and won.
I did a bricklaying course and built a nice big barbecue at the back. Yeah.
But your fashion was great, and you looked great in the knee-high, vinyl or leather boots and your hot pants. I mean,
well, that's because I didn't like my legs. I covered them up with boots.
I can see why.
But that time period, we get curious about that, because that was the time period where you had a lot of sirens, and you had a lot of the women that looked great, they're model-esque. So I was just curious whether the record labels were pushing you to be sexier and to look that way, or that just happened to be who you were.
I wore what I wanted to wear.
Yeah.
I was never told to wear one thing or another. I've always 70s. This is from the 70s, what I've got on today.
Oh, wow.
I never ever followed fashion. I've never been a follower of fashion. I'm me. And that's the way
But you were very influential, because there's a lot of people we talk to, when you talk about Middle of the Road, they go, well, that's obviously where ABBA got their sound-esque and their look and whatnot. They had to have seen Middle of the Road. They had to have seen Sally out front. There's a lot of similarities there.
The boys admitted in a live interview that they were influenced by our music, and also Agneta. Like a lot of the things I wore, Agneta wore similar things. And I saw a thing on YouTube not that long ago, and she was wearing this blue thing with the bell bottom at the bottom, bell halfway down, flares. And I said, I designed that. I had it made in Singapore. Exactly the same.
Well, talking of fashion, you can see that I was quite a leader at that time.
No, I don't even want to get into the clothes that you and Ian and Eric wore. I can't.
No.
I can't go down that road, because some of those outfits were like, wow. What were you thinking? Could you get a collar that was any bigger? If you did, you were about ready to fly in a heavy wind.
Don't talk about heavy wigs. I had one. It was definitely important.
You and me both, Ken. I wear the hat. The hat's become my trademark, but because of the festival that I do, I'm on stage a lot. But the
hat's his trademark. Yeah, it is.
He's got a hat he wears, or he did wear on stage when we were doing live gigs, and it had a big long ponytail down the back. So he would wear it when he was playing, and then at the end he would take it off and shock the people that there was no hair.
And that's when the bottles flew again, probably. Yeah.
This time
you should have thrown the bottles back at the people.
Well, I want to let everybody know that not only on Amazon can they find your RCA. We held up that the 3-album set, the Middle of the Road, the RCA years, but Renaissance Records across the bottom of the screen. It's cdsandlps.com. That's Renaissance Records in Arizona here in the U.S. Anybody can go there and order. It's 7 albums they've got. There's the best of.
I didn't get the greatest hits because I had a feeling that it was based upon the photo. I had a feeling it was either re-recordings or live or something.
But I've got all 7 of them en route here, so they can go to Renaissance Records and probably Amazon and other places and
Definitely
find
Amazon. Yes.
all these releases. So if you're interested, that's the website right there for Renaissance, or go to Amazon, pick up all the releases from this wonderful, wonderful early 70s band, Middle of the Road. We thank you for being here. We've got to kind of wrap things up. It's been a wonderful time talking with you. I mean, this was like a bucket list interview, and I even considered, could we find anybody from Middle of the Road? And when Ken got back to me and said, "This is me, this is Ken," and actually I was talking about Sally, and it took me 2 or 3 emails. So I said, "Wait a minute, is this Ken from the band?" And you said, "Yeah."
Now, social media has its pluses and minuses, but one of the greatest pluses has been being able to connect with people whose music we grew up with, who we never thought we would ever be able to speak with. And it's been amazing.
Thank you very much.
Listen, we're the ones who are grateful. Thank you so much.
Yes.
And Sally,
continue
gaining health. I wish you nothing but the best. Actually, we talked about Steve Lunt Wednesday. He said, "I don't know if you should tell her or not, but she was one of my early crushes." And that's the vice president of A&R of Jive and Atlantic Records. So you had a very big fan in him as well. So, but yeah, we wish you nothing but the very best. We thank you so much for being here, Material Issues. This is really special for us.
Definitely stay healthy, stay well.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes, definitely. Thanks again. Thanks a million for inviting us to do this.
Yes. Thank you 1,000,001 for doing it.
Right back at you. You guys have a great rest of your visit. A safe trip back home, Sally. Ken will be in touch. I just want to say publicly thank you so much, but we'll do it on the side as well. We got some people checking in saying it was a wonderful interview. So best wishes. Everybody go out and pick up everything by Middle of the Road. You're going to be surprised at just how good their entire catalog is. And have a great one.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Well, there you have it, David. That was Middle of the Road.
They're such nice
Sally, Carr, Ken, Andrew, such wonderful people.
They're such nice people. And, one of the things that I was talking to Rena about this yesterday, but, like Steve Lund from City Boy, he had no idea until the City Boy Facebook group was around that so many people still love them. Mm-hmm. So many of these bands, even if they had big hits at the time, they think, well, God, everyone's forgotten about us. They have no idea that there's a core group of people out there who still think fondly of them. And social media has definitely helped to illuminate that there are people out there that still care. And, and I guess that thought on their part makes them as humble as they are, because they think, well, we had our time and, maybe we were all that back then, but now, I mean, who cares about us? Well, people care.
Yeah, a lot of people care. And as we talked to Steve, on Wednesday too, it's like you may be known for one thing in your life. Maybe City Boy's known for 5705. Maybe John Lazar is only known for Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. But and maybe Ken, who wasn't crazy about Chirpy, Chirpy, Cheep, Cheep in the beginning. And that's what the first thing out of everybody's mouth when you say Middle of the Road. But you know what? You're known for that. And that's an awesome thing to be on your resume for your whole life, because 99.9% of the rest of us don't get known for anything like that.
That's true.
Wonderful.
And a lot of band, like we were telling Steve, they only had the one hit, and I said, you had all these major label albums, plus you had the one hit. I mean, all the bands that I have at IPO, they would give their firstborn child to have a career like that. Yeah. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So don't belittle what you did. It was impressive.
Yeah, especially if their firstborn child is named Don.
Well, we hope that they don't give Don away. We far away.
Far away.
We don't want that.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us in this bonus episode. I know David has to get on the road to IPO San Diego at Black Cat Bar. Black Cat Bar, am I right?
Black Cat Bar, yes.
Black Cat Bar. So you and Rena have a safe trip. We'll see everybody next week when we will have an American Gladiator. If you ever watched the show from 1989 to 1996, American Gladiators, one of the original first season and into the subsequent seasons, Ice, Lori Fetrick, American Gladiators will be here. We'll follow that with the following week with a lady that David booked. Going from there.
Yeah, 23-year-old young woman, Abigail DeVoe, who has a podcast which is pretty well followed, called Vinyl Monday, in which she talks about her love of certain classic albums, but she does a deep dive into them. I mean, she's giving background info on all these albums that, it would be impressive if a 60-year-old knew, let alone someone who's 23. She really researched this. And not only that, you can feel her passion about these albums.
We're going to see if we can stump her with Middle of the Road.
Yeah, that kind of stuff, I'm not sure she's aware of those things. She might be.
She will be.
But it's mostly classic rock that she talks about.
Thank you, Tim.
You have a great weekend as well. But I mean, yeah, you just have to watch. You have to watch. It's almost like she becomes a person of that day. Also, usually she dresses the part, like she did. I just saw one where she covered Let It Be, and she's dressed in the jacket that, trying to remember which Beatle, maybe it was Ringo, was wearing a style jacket that Ringo was wearing on the Rooftop concert.
Mm-hmm.
So she gets into it.
That's great.
So I'm just very impressed with her. So I'm really looking forward to it. And then the following week we have open at the moment.
Right.
And then on the 13th we've
got a great guest, 2 top 10 hits in 1973-74. The first one being very iconic for me, Spiders and Snakes. Jim Stafford will be on the show. That's September 13th. He'll be talking about Spiders and Snakes, Wildwood Weed, My Girl Bill, his Jim Stafford variety show, and his upcoming concerts in Branson, Missouri. So Jim Stafford right here on Material Issues.
Wonderful.
And then we finish up the run with another great iconic power.
Very iconic in the pop world. One of the main men of definitely one of the most beloved bands in that world, Jellyfish, who also was one of the main men of Imperial Drag, TV Eyes, Licorice Quartet, and he's also put out several solo discs that are brilliant. Yes, it's Roger Joseph Manning Jr. we'll have as our guest on September 20th.
Wow.
And that should be great. And we definitely have irons in the fire. Who knows? Yep. We might even fill up September 6th.
Yeah.
But even if we don't, we always have fun doing the shows together by ourselves.
Sure we do. Yeah.
A lot of laughs. But, we try to get good guests when we can, and guests that will entertain. Sometimes we'll be provocative. But as long, we just want everyone who watches to enjoy it. Yeah. And, hopefully it's enlightening too. Like, I was enlightened with Middle of the Road. The idea that these albums existed and I had no idea just is astounding to myself, because especially with groups I like from the 70s, I figure I know everything, but I was humbled, very, very greatly humbled there.
That's awesome.
And thank God these things were reissued.
Yeah.
And
Renaissance Records.
We should find out from the head of Renaissance why he did this. Yeah. Not only did he not go for the stuff that was big by Middle of the Road, he went for the stuff that nobody knew.
Yeah.
I mean, this has to be a labor of love. I can't imagine he's going to sell that many copies. I wish he would, because it's music that deserves to be heard, but it's always hard to sell stuff that people aren't aware of.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has to be a labor of love. And I really want, if nothing else, I'd love to applaud him for doing something like this, because You're not going to find too many labels. You know, I mean, labels, reissue labels, boutique labels. They may reissue stuff they love, but they also hope it really sells well. And if they don't think it will, they won't do the reissue. But in this case, it's very clear, or at least it seems to be, that this is just a labor of love.
Yeah, seven. I mean, releasing 7 albums. You
Yeah,
know, that's quite an
thanks.
undertaking. Thank you, DC. But yeah, so we're going to see everybody again next Wednesday for Lori Fetrick, Ice of American Gladiators, right here on Material Issues.
I'll have to watch Muscles and Mayhem.
Muscles and Mayhem is the new Netflix series.
Or I'll be ignorant as hell, so I don't
which talks all about behind the scenes of American Gladiators. So we're going to get it right from the lady herself, Lori Fetrick. So yeah, hey, thanks for joining us on this bonus episode. It's always available on the Facebook group and on the YouTube channel as archive, as are the other 115 episodes. So join the group, subscribe on YouTube, tell all your friends. We've got a lot of great stuff out there on Material Issues, and we've got more coming in the future. So have a great weekend, everybody.
Absolutely. Stay safe. We'll see you next time, next Wednesday.